Dad, I need your help.
I'm coming.
Should have brought the gaff. Come on, fish.
Go.
Yeah.
Yes!
Yeah.
Yeah! Yeah!
What's up, yins, guys? Welcome back to Fishing PA with Ryan Reed. In this episode, I want to switch gears a little bit and I want to talk about Great Lakes Steelhead. Now, guys, I had a recent trip with the one and only Pennsylvania Monsters, Tom Vanatta, and Nick Fiesler, where we went out and we braved the elements in the Great Lakes region in pursuit of a Great Lakes Steelhead. Guys, it has been many years since I've gone to the Great Lakes region in pursuit of a steelhead. So, since it's been so many years, I had to basically pick up some new gear in order to pursue this trip. And I had to kind of learn some new tactics or relearn some tactics in order to try to catch one of these fish. So I thought what I would do in this video is share with you guys the equipment that I picked up, explain what I started doing, explain what worked for me during the trip, and kind of explain where I'm going from here with some of the steelhead stuff. So hopefully you guys find this interesting. Hopefully it helps you kind of learn something new. Or if you guys already know this stuff and you're out there catching steelhead regularly, maybe it'll give you a little chuckle because I have obviously no idea what I'm doing. So with that said, guys, I'm also going to have Tom Vanatta from Pennsylvania Monsters on Fishing PA. We're going to talk about steelhead. We're going to talk about tactics, and he's going to share some information with you guys as well. So that's going to be a separate episode, but this is my take on what I learned through my eyes. And then we'll let all of you guys correct me where I'm wrong. And then we'll bring Tom on to kind of clean up everything that I screwed up. All right, guys. So where do we start here? I had no idea. So the first thing that I knew that I had to do was stop at a local bait shop and pick up some gear. The current equipment that I have has kind of morphed into muskie mania. I've got muskie rods and reels all over my office. I've got muskie baits all over my office. I've got muskie leaders all over my office. I haven't fished for trout, but maybe one time in 2020. Actually, I take that back. 0 times in 2020 because I was in pursuit of muskies. So this steelhead thing, completely different ballgame. That much I do know. Okay, before I get into talking about this rod and reel combo, just want to throw this out there. I'm not telling you guys to go cheap when you're fishing for steelhead. All I'm saying is this rod was available. It was a great price for me as a beginner to get into the sport of chasing steelheads, and it was available in the bait shop at the time on special that I was standing in the Great Lakes region. So check your options, look at your budget, figure out what you guys can do. For me, this rod worked perfectly. I hooked up with a few fish. I landed a fish on it. So here's what I did. Bottom line, special for $30, I ended up with a Pinnacle LMCR10, which is a 10-foot rod. And as you guys can see here, there's a lot of flex here, a lot of good flex here, which really helps with a 10-foot rod to manage steelhead on the other end of your line. So with this particular Pinnacle rod, this came with a Dower reel. And this Dower reel is a Strike Force 2500-B. So I'll just show this to you guys really quick if you can see that. Now, this rod and reel combo is good from 4-pound test up to 10-pound test. To me, for 30 bucks, this is an ideal grab to chase steelhead. So I was really pumped that I got the help from Tom and Nick to find this. And I was really pumped that the bait shop that we were standing in had this on special for 30 bucks. After I looked this rod up on Amazon, it's like a $50 to $60 rod. You know, I got the whole rod and reel combo for 30 bucks. Awesome deal. For a few more dollars, I got some 8-pound fluoro spooled on here right in the shop, and I was basically ready to take this thing out, tie it up, and go fishing. All right, guys, so the next thing that I knew I was gonna need, and Tom helped me out with, was some leader line. Now, you guys know when you're steelhead fishing or trout fishing, it's always good to have relatively small diameter line. Now, for the conditions that we were fishing low water, which what I'm learning means when you have low water scenarios and the fish piled up in holes like that, you probably need to go a little lighter with your tackle, meaning smaller terminal tackle, like your swivels, like the small swivels, your real thin diameter line, and even smaller hooks. So what I did was I picked up 2 different types of fluorocarbon leader. One is a 6-pound and one was a 4-pound. Now with these, I have a couple of options. Now most steelhead guys, you guys are probably laughing at me right now. You probably have a variety from like 2 to 4 to 6 to 8, depending upon where you're fishing. For me, in the Great Lakes region that we fish, I would say 4 to 6 pound is probably what your standard is going to be based off of what I know. Okay, so what else did I need to pick up? Well, in order to kind of float the creek, the other thing that's really important is to have decent floats, something like that. Also, different types of split shots, varying weights. So I've got some split shots there, varying weights, and along with the bottom, if you guys can see that, some swivels and some hooks. So terminal tackle. So you have your float, you have your weights, you have your hooks, and you have your swivel. So I picked all of this up in this neat little case, which I had no idea existed, from Sheffield at the bait shop for like $7. I found another one on eBay, and I bought a second one just to store any type of random stuff. And I'm probably going to end up putting in like 6mm beads in here, because beads are a thing. We're going to talk about that for a minute. So there's some bead stops that are already in there. So get yourself some containers if you're thinking about doing this. You know, this way you can have all of your terminal tackle, like your hooks, your swivels, and your split shots all in one case like this. And it makes it super easy to organize. You guys can even put labels on here with the grams of weight each of these split shots are, and match those up with your floats as well. So guys, with all of this stuff, with the rod and reel combo, the line, the leader material, the terminal tackle, hooks, split shots, swivels, floats, I was in the steelhead game for about $80. Not bad to get into Great Lakes steelhead fishing after being out of that game for so many years. So what I want to show you guys real quick is kind of this float configuration. So let me show a diagram to you that I found online, and I've seen this in many different YouTube videos that I've watched for steelhead. So you guys can see these different variations of the float. So what I did was I took this based off of what I was learning from Tom and Nick at the time. And again, this is through my eyes. So what I learned is you basically need a float. So this particular float that I have on here is a 2-gram float. So the idea of this is to take and match your weights up so you don't have more weight than what your float can handle. Okay, so on this particular leader, I've got 6-pound fluorocarbon leader. I've got my float up top. And then the idea of this thing, guys, is to basically take your bigger split shots and start them closer to the float. And as you work down your leader, the split shots are going to get smaller. So you've got your float here. I've got whatever this is called, like an anchor weight or whatever they call that below the float to kind of draw the float down so it's sitting straight up and down. Then I've got my swivel there, if you guys can see that. Then I've got a smaller split shot, an even smaller split shot, and the smallest split shot. And then what I have on the end here is basically a bead and a stop, if you guys can see that. And the bead should be 2.5 to 3 finger lengths away from your hook. Now, what I'm learning is that different bead sizes require different hook sizes. So for example, a 6mm bead, you want to use a hook size 6 to 10. If you have an 8mm bead, your hook size should be like 4 to 8. If you have a 10mm bead, your hook sizes can go down to 2 to 6. If you have a 12mm bead and a 14mm bead, you can go to a 1/0 hook or even a size 4 hook. So guys, you know, depending upon your bead size, you're going to want to match your hook size up with that. And what Tom told me was 2.5 to 3 finger lengths. So you take your fingers, take the bottom of the bead, and you match that up. I've got 3 finger lengths between that bead and that hook. If you guys can see that. Probably not, because my fat fingers are in the way. But you guys get the point here, okay? So the bead, the hook. Now the idea of this bead fishing is that the fish comes, this is floating down the creek, you know, oh yeah, here we go. And then a fish comes up, hits the bead, hopefully engulfs the hook with it. But if it hits the bead, you feel the weight of the fish, you set the hook, and what this does is it slides the hook right into the corner of the mouth. Fish gets bead, fish gets hook, you get hooked up, and hopefully the idea of it, you catch a steelhead. Now, the other thing you guys can do with this, like many other people do, is you can actually eliminate the bead and you can fish live bait on here. You can fish small like emerald shiners. You can fish like night crawlers. You can fish egg sacs. You can fish like skein right out of the fish, right on this hook. You eliminate the bead, you put some weight, you stagger the weight out. You basically match your weight up with the float, and you just really take this out and you pick what bait or what style of fishing you want to do, and then you tie this to the other end of your rod. So again, float, you got like your anchor weight there, you got a swivel, you've got multiple split shots all the way down to whatever you're using here, and ultimately the butt end of that hook. So this is sort of what we did. You know, it was a combination of bead fishing, combination of using egg sacs, and really we were kind of floating baits down the creek all day. So we were fishing for a while. I was with Tom and Nick, and we get to this other spot later in the day where we're kind of joking around about husky jerks. Now, you guys know that I love husky jerks. I love them. I love those baits. They've caught me muskies last year. I caught bass on them. I've caught perch on them. I've caught a lot of different species of fish on a husky. Nick and I were joking around about throwing a husky, so he puts on a husky. And we start pitching baits into this hole. Now, at that point, I'm still floating beads and egg sacs. Tom's still floating beads. We haven't really made too many contacts with fish. I think Tom maybe lost 2 or 3 fish that morning. And all of a sudden, Nick hooks up with a beautiful little Pennsylvania, Great Lakes region brown trout.
The husky. On a husky. Dude, he tried to eat it. That's so good.
You guys are down the husky. You gotta get a picture of the husky. You know it.
Wow. That's ridiculous. I'm putting on a husky. It's a nice fish, too.
It is. Yeah, boys. You don't want to know. 12, 15.
There it goes.
So guys, that was pretty cool. Seeing that beautiful brown come out of that hole. I started thinking about it and I started doing some more research. And what I found was that little jerk baits or little crankbaits like the Rapala original floaters, something that looks like that, these are like candy to brown trout. Now, what I'm learning is sometimes steelhead will hit them, but a lot of times they won't. So, bottom line is I want to do some more experimenting. I want to pick up some Pins minnows, like the 2-inch ones. I want to get some of the real tiny little Rapala original floaters, some of the real small huskies, and I want to try it. You know, a lot of people will tell you they will spook the fish. I can tell you that is accurate based off of what I saw when Nick and I were throwing those and we were actually watching the fish in the hole. But sometimes I think jerk baits and some of those crankbaits have their place in the Great Lakes region. They obviously work. We got a fish on camera, a legal fish that ate the bait. That's the important thing. It wasn't snagged. That fish committed and ate the bait. So it was a really cool experience. I really loved watching him catch that fish. That was brutally funny considering we were trying to float little egg sacs and beads all day to that point. So what did I decide to do? I watched Nick catch a beautiful brown on a husky jerk. Well, boys and girls, I went back to my roots of trout fishing and I pulled out the one and only hybrid Mr. Joe's fly. Now, purist, you guys are probably cringing right now because this right here is a hybrid blade and fly. Now, you guys know I love Joe's flies. I troll these at Twin Lakes in Greensburg for opening day of trout. I love casting these in streams. My brother caught his first ever steelhead on a Joe's fly. But what I'm learning is that a lot of the tactics that I used when I was younger, like, for example, Joe's flies, or perhaps like spoons that you see in this box, or the Panther Martins that you see at the end of this box, those are really more geared towards like the mouths into the lakes. So when you're talking Great Lakes, like the mouths of creeks into Lake Erie, for example, or the mouths of creeks on some of the other lakes like Lake Michigan, and you know, just some of those areas are better suited for that meadow. However, I decided to throw Joe's fly on. I was working it across the current like I'm used to doing. I like kind of working those across the current sometimes, and something happened. I watched a fish come out and smoke this Joe's fly. It was the first steelhead that I've caught in a very long time, and I don't have many steelhead on my resume. So here's that clip.
Dude, this is a big fish. This is a big fish.
Stop there. Stop there. Tip up over there.
I can't tell, but all I know is it definitely, like, I felt it whack it.
So you take a couple steps back and try to gain. Right now you're just working on the See, what you're kind of reeling into nowhere. Like reel down, then forward. Reel down, then forward. Don't go too high. See how now you're working on
It's a good fish, but I'm getting... Yeah. Yeah, I'm not doing well though. I thought we were gonna get him in the net. I don't want, yeah, don't go out and get him. Dude, this is ridiculous. There's no way, dude. This... No way, dude. No way. Yeah, Tom! Yeah! Yeah! Yeah!
And it came out.
It did.
Oh,
That's a nice one. That's a nice
That's a pretty fish.
Yeah.
Beefy. Right back with the ladies.
Thank you, sir.
So we kept fishing. For 2 days, we kept fishing. Day one, I think I ended up going like 1 for 6. I know Nick went like 1 for 6 or 5 or 1 for 5 or 1 for 6. Tom missed a couple of fish, and then he ended up catching a beautiful brown, which I want to show you guys pictures of. So, after a long day of fishing, we contacted some fish. It was a great experience. We went out there for day 2. Now, I'll admit to you guys, I did not fish as hard as I should have on day 2. We went out, we fished a couple of new spots, and Tom had a stellar day. If I recollect, I think Tom missed like 3 or 4 fish. We ended up netting a couple of fish for him. And really, the clip that I want to show you guys is a giant steelhead, a fish that almost went 10 pounds on a bead. So I was super pumped to see that fish. I was super pumped to be a part of that fish with the net. And it was just a very cool experience at the end of a long 2-day trip. So let's roll that clip. It's a long one, but let's roll that clip for you guys, and hopefully you enjoy this.
Actually hooked it?
Yep. I can feel that fish. That's a monster.
It's a good fish. Let me get out of there.
This is a beast, dude. He's fair on the bead.
It's fair. On the what? On the what?
bead.
On the bead. They actually eat beads. Big fish. Big fish alert.
Big fish.
Big-
On the beads.
It's right. It's. I mean, it's.
This is how they fight when they're fair.
You can't mess this one up, is what he's saying. Oh yeah, it's coming. That is a giant. I'm gonna get out of here because I don't. If that thing comes out, I'm not gonna get it on the face. I do feel like Tom's cameraman today. I'm just saying. Just watch him work. Watch him work.
Look at the tail.
It's a big tail. He doesn't know that.
He thinks he's going to go to the smoker at Port Richard and be the Cajun special trading.
On the bead.
On the bead.
The hustle. Look at the hustle.
I'm not content yet. I'm still worried.
I was gonna dive. Get right in there. Won't do me,
That is
big
a
boy.
big. That is a big fish. We're at 8.5 minutes. Come on, fish. Come up here. I can see him right in front of me. If I wouldn't have slipped.
Idea, though. Good idea. Go, 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 go.
Yeah.
Yes!
Yeah.
Yes! Yes!
Nice.
Yeah, that is a slob. Oh my god.
That is a big.
Look, right in the mouth, too.
7.
Yeah.
I'm on 0 right there.
27.
20,
and a
almost
half.
28. Oh, he's past 28. He's like
You're
28.
up. There you go, you're on 0.
He's 28, 28 and a half.
28 and a half.
Thank you, buddy. And you're ready, huh? You big meat, huh?
Here goes.
Yes, dude.
Yeah!
That's crazy.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Ryan.
All right, Yins, guys. I mean, that wraps this trip up. We had 2 good days in the Great Lakes region. It was beautiful weather. The water conditions were tough. It was low and it was clear. We saw a bunch of fish, got to interact with a few of these fish, and we got to release every single fish that we put in the net. To me, that was a great trip and a way for me to get back into steelhead fishing. Now, I'm a musky fisherman now at heart. I've got to be honest with you guys. However, I feel like after getting back into the swing of things and hooking a few fish, landing a fish, I feel like I'm ready to kind of maybe make that a thing again every year. There's just something special about chasing Great Lakes chrome in the winter when you've got cold and snow, you can see your breath, and you're just grinding all day for an opportunity at one of those beautiful steelhead. So guys, I'm going to keep learning. I'm going to keep doing this thing. I'm probably going to keep adding to my bead collection. When I have Tom on, we're going to talk more about beads and what colors are good, what scenarios to use them, how he uses them, how he catches so many beautiful fish on them. And hopefully that'll help you guys learn something new as well. All right, Yins, guys, that's all I have for this particular trip. I wanted to share with you guys the trip and the experiences that we had. I wanted to share with you the fish that we caught. I wanted to share some of the gear that I picked up to get back into chasing steelheads. So hopefully you guys like this. Hopefully it was somewhat helpful. I think the biggest thing is when you're getting into something again or something new, you don't always have to go and spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars to get into it. You can do it relatively cheaply. 30 bucks for a rod combo, 80 bucks for an entire setup. You can do some additional stuff like beads. You know, just give yourself an opportunity to catch fish for relatively cheap. I think that is probably the best advice. Don't get caught up in all these super expensive rod combos and equipment. So hopefully you guys like this video. If you do, hit that like button for me. If you guys like this content overall, please subscribe to my channel. I greatly appreciate each and every one of you guys out there and all the support that you guys give me with every video that I put out. So I'll just say this. I've got one more steelhead trip planned. I'm going to go up. I'm going to try to catch a legal fish, one that is pinned in the corner of the mouth with one of these beads. So hopefully I can accomplish that. That is one of my goals in 2021. Hopefully I can get that one knocked off in short term. All right, guys, tight lines. We will see Yins next time.
It's all about the what?
Guide.
The what?
Local guide.